This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. I'm Marek Mazurek. The Indiana Dunes is one of the state's biggest tourist attractions, drawing around 3 million visitors each year. That results in hundreds of millions of dollars in economic activity for Northwest Indiana. But the dune's status as an economic driver for the region could be in jeopardy due to President Donald Trump's cuts to the federal workforce. 5 Indiana Dunes employees were fired this month, and that includes trail and roads technician Ann Pellman. She said the cuts could only drive away dedicated employees who create value for the parks.
They're dedicated and have passion for the parks, just waiting for that chance to get into a permanent job. And that's the tragedy. Those are the people we really want. They're not making money, they're just getting by. People don't live fat when they work for the Park Service.
A 2022 study by the National Park Service found the Indiana Dunes Park contributed $208 million to the local economy that year, including $141 million in visitor spending. That's more than the $156 million generated in 2022 when Lucas Oil Stadium hosted the College Football Playoff Championship game. Indianapolis-based pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly and Company announced plans Wednesday to add 4 new manufacturing sites in a roughly $27 billion investment expected to create 3,000 jobs and nearly 10,000 construction positions during the build-out. Lilly, it says, it expects to reveal the specific locations for the sites later this year, adding it is still negotiating with several states. The company would not confirm whether Indiana is among them. The drug maker says the move will more than double its U.S. manufacturing investment since 2020, bringing the total to more than $50 billion. Lilly says the new jobs will be filled by highly skilled workers, including engineers, scientists, operations personnel, and lab technicians. Lilly was set to make an official announcement about the investment during a Wednesday press conference in Washington, D.C., as international trade and U.S. manufacturing practices have gained attention amid President Donald Trump's plans to use more tariffs. Lilly CEO David Ricks says the company's optimism in its pipeline across therapeutic areas is driving what it called its unprecedented commitment to expanding U.S. manufacturing. From the #1 source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
To succeed, you need to stay informed. You need to be engaged. And let's face it, you need to set yourself apart from the rest by connecting with a company that brings you the best. Because in today's environment, business is an ever-moving target, and we'll help you chase it. IBJ Media. The best of business is in us. Get started at ibjmedia.com/youngprofessional.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has linked a Listeria outbreak that resulted in 12 deaths to frozen supplemental shakes produced at a facility in Fort Wayne. The agency says the shakes, sold under the Lions Ready Care and Cisco Imperial brands, were made at the Prairie Farms Dairy Inc. plant at 3400 Lima Road. The FDA said on its website that the recalled frozen supplement shakes were distributed to food service customers, including hospitals and long-term care facilities nationwide. Distributors are being advised to not sell the products and sanitize any surfaces they have touched. As of Monday, a total of 38 people infected with the outbreak strain of Listeria have been reported from 21 states, according to the agency. Of those, 37 people have been hospitalized and 12 deaths have been reported. Indianapolis Public Schools is calling for a moratorium on new schools as state lawmakers advance legislation that would force the district to share property tax revenues with dozens of charter schools. The statement from the school board last week also calls for a limit on the ability of authorizers to allow new charter schools to open by only allowing the Indianapolis mayor's office to give new charters the green light. Right now, 7 authorizers have the power to let new charters open in Indianapolis. The demand came shortly after the Indiana Senate passed Senate Bill 518, which would require the district to share revenues from property taxes and referendums as early as 2026. The bill compounds the long-term pressures on IPS, where enrollment declined by over 3% this year, and has led IPS officials to publicly lament the new charters that officials have allowed to open within IPS borders. Combined with proposed property tax caps, IPS has said the legislation would force it to close schools. Forbes is out with its annual list of America's best banks, and 3 Indiana financial institutions are included. Forbes ranks the top 100 publicly traded banks based on 10 metrics measuring growth, credit quality, and profitability over the last year. Those metrics include net interest margin, return on average assets, and operating revenue growth. Jasper-based German-American Bank is ranked number 2 on this year's list. South Bend-based First Source Bank is ranked number 26, followed by Lake City Bank in Warsaw at number 45. Bloomington Mayor Carrie Thompson is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC. A weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Marek Mazurek for Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand.